Hello everybody, welcome back to Tech Hut, and in this video what we're going to be doing is going over the top 5 Linux distributions for people who are switching from Mac OS X or Windows. This list isn't going to be ranked from best to worst, but it's going to be ranked from the most like Windows out of the box, so the best user experience for the new Windows user. But as we go down the list, it may need some more tweaks and customization to get that Windows-like experience. But every operating system in this list is great. And if you stay tuned, somewhere in the middle of this video, I'm going to be giving off some honorable mentions. I will note that most people's preferences when it comes to Linux distributions goes off the type of desktop environment that is preloaded on that distribution. So if you know nothing about the desktop environments, I will kind of discuss it throughout this video, going over the different distributions. But I do recommend going into the link in the description and you'll be able to see previews of the most popular desktop environments. So let's quit wasting time and jump on into the first item on this list. Alright, so coming in at number 1 is Zorin OS. Now the reason why this operating system is at number 1 is because it is designed specifically for the new Linux user. The user interface is absolutely beautiful, everything's easy to find. And with this operating system, if I were to be installing a Linux distribution on my grandmother's computer, this is what I would go with. It is absolutely beautiful, it's rock solid and reliable. Just overall, it is nice. They do have a couple editions. They have the Education, Lite, Core, and Ultimate Edition. If you are running an older computer, you may want to opt for the Lite edition. It will take less system resources, and it is a much smaller file size. Most people opt for the Core. If you're looking for an education package with a bunch of catered software, you could go with that one. And then they have an Ultimate version for $39, and the only real difference is it comes with a couple extras, like over 20 games, installation support, and some premium desktop layouts, which I'm actually going to get into and show you some of this user interface here real quick. If I go over here to the time right here, click on that, you see it brings up the clock and a really nice area right here for your notifications. You could turn on Do Not Disturb if you don't want to be disturbed. For example, if you're like me and you're to be recording a video, I'd go ahead and check that just so I don't get pop-ups mid-video. You can add more world clocks, add weather to this. If you go over here, the menu is very familiar, it's easy to follow. Right here are your general categories. You can see the iconing and theming of this operating system is really nice. If I go into something like utilities, you see it brings up all the various utility applications built into the operating system. Open up something like System Monitor, and you can see that it is very familiar to a Windows user, especially if I go into the File Manager. It kind of has the same tree and folder layout that Windows does. Go into Documents, well, there's going to be nothing in there. Nothing's in any of these. If I go to Other Locations and go to Computer, you can see it's kind of the same format. Everything's super snappy and quick. It's just a nice experience overall. If I go down here and I go into the theming to kind of show you what I was talking about the packages, you can see there are some predefined layouts here. You have this one. If I clicked on this one, it would make these larger and it would just kind of change things around a bit. This is more of a Windows 7 type feeling. And then if I go with this one, it makes it so it's more friendly to touch-based interfaces. So if I click on this, it brings up the Gnome style menu, which would be very beneficial if you either preferred this or if you are on a touchscreen machine. And then that Ultimate Edition will unlock a couple more of these if you're interested. Items on desktop, you could make it like Windows where you throw the trash bin up there. Title bar button, you could throw these on the left or right. There's a lot of good customizations within this interface. If you go to theme, you can select your base color. So for example, if I were to go with orange, it would change everything like that. For the background, you could go with a dark background, or a feature that's really nice is if you click on this one, you can set it to automatically switch to the black interface based on the time of day it is, or you could just set it sunset to sunrise, and then that will make it so everything's black when the sun goes down or is down, and when it comes up it will be light. Then you have a fonts and some panel settings. Close it out, and that is Zorin OS. I highly suggest you check it out if you are trying to get into Linux. Everything just seems to work out of the box and you are going to have a wonderful user experience. Next on our list is Linux Mint Cinnamon Edition, and this has been my go-to Linux distribution for over a decade. It just works, and it has everything you need to get a running head start into the Linux cinnamon desktop environment is elegant and quite speedy when it comes to getting to everything you need. Now, this is a traditional desktop feel, so people new to Linux seem to have no issue at all when it comes to initially navigating the system, especially when it comes to setting up and customizing. You can see the system settings looks very familiar to the Windows control panel. And in addition, there are settings and preferences within the actual start menu. So you have quick shortcuts to all the settings within here, right here. So people usually find themselves kind of exploring down this list of all the applications pre-installed initially. And the good thing about this distribution is all the applications pre-installed are good applications. So you're going to have everything you need to get started with no issue. Overall, the operating system seems to work on just about any piece of hardware you throw at it. When it comes to Linux Mint, it is based on Ubuntu, and it's commonly referred to as Ubuntu done right. Update after update, especially with their Cinnamon edition, they seem to have a good grip on keeping everything consistent and keeping the traditional desktop feel. If you look back at old versions of Linux Mint, it is basically the exact same thing when it comes to the organization and theme, except for some minor modernization of some of the styling and icons. It is the same operating system you would get, and it just works. Even as a more advanced user, I prefer Linux Mint over a vast majority of operating systems, and it is a wonderful companion to my daily workflow. Next up on our list is Elementary OS. Now, out of all of these flavors of Linux, Elementary OS is probably the most beautiful variant. When you first boot into Elementary OS, it feels kind of like you are rocking a Mac OS X interface, and everything is extremely clean, whether that be through the file menus. You can see here it kind of has a larger icon. It's kind of like the Gnome look that you saw, but condensed down into a start menu. But don't worry, you can just click this right here, and it gives you to the, well, it gets you to the categorized list of applications. You can see compared to some of the other distributions, there's not nearly as many applications available by default, but getting applications is really nice through their system store. You can see if I go down to that, open it up, it is called the App Center, and it is very clean. You can see right here it has the recently updated, some trending applications. You have categories of everything you'd ever need right here. So for example, if I go under audio, you can see a huge list of applications. Most of these are wonderful things you can install, especially Audacity. You just click on application, click on free, and it will go through and install the application. Now, everything in that system store works really fine, but I will note that installing other types of applications that are popular on Linux, such as Snap and Debian-based packages, do require some tinkering. So if you're not into using Google to try to figure out how to do certain things, or if you're not one to do any tinkering, I would suggest you go with one of the first two operating systems. And this is especially troublesome because, like I said, it does not come with that many applications out of the gate. But if everything you need is going to be within this App Center, you are going to be good to go. You can see here, if I go ahead and open up System Settings, it has kind of the same look. Everything's organized a little bit better, but everything is clean, neat, easily accessible. You can see here it has a wide variety of different backgrounds you can use. So for example, let's switch to this one, and it has a nice clean transition and takes you to the background. Under appearance, you have a couple settings, so you can do Windows animations, you can change your text size here. You have some dock settings here, so you have a couple pre-configured icon sizes. So you have the large one, you have some of the controls on when to hide it, and pressure reveal. If I go into hot corners, so this will give you functionality if you put your cursor up in the corner. For example, if I go with this bottom corner here, you have some options such as multitask view, show application menu, show all windows, switch new workspace. So let's go show all windows, and I'll go ahead and put the cursor back down there. And you can see once I do that, it opens up all the windows in a view, so I could go ahead and click on whatever one I want to be using. So that's a nice little fun feature there. Another thing I will note is the default web browser. This one right here is absolutely horrible, so I would suggest you go ahead and download Firefox, Chrome, or one of your preferences. So that is about it for Elementary OS. Let's move on to number 4. Next on the list is Pop! OS, and Pop! OS isn't perfect for everybody, but it could be argued that this is the perfect variation of Ubuntu. By default, the interface of Pop! OS is a little different and does take some learning, but overall it's designed for max productivity with just enough features to get going. The video you see on the screen right now is actually a different recording from my 5 things you must do after installing Pop! OS. And most of the steps in this video are required if you do want a positive experience if you are switching from Windows. If you go ahead and watch that video, follow it, you will have a great time running Pop! OS. As far as productivity, everything including the fluidity and overall user experience is heavily dependent on keyboard hotkeys out of the box, but if you do learn the system, you're going to absolutely love it. Pop! OS if you tend on using your Linux machine for gaming. Linus Tech Tips has a whole video on Linux gaming, and in their video, they went with Pop! OS as the base to prove that Linux gaming is great, if not better than Windows. And right now I'm going to take the time to interrupt this video to give some honorable mentions. First, I'm going to give a shout out to Ubuntu Budgie or Solus. Both of these operating systems use the Budgie interface, which is really nice. It's a sleek, clean desktop environment, and I would highly recommend you check it out. If you're running an older system or you prefer a file tree type format for the system interface, I do recommend checking out Linux Mint Mate. In addition, I do recommend you check out the Ubuntu, just the stock Ubuntu interface. It's really good. It's one of the most popular operating systems for new users for a reason. And lastly, I do suggest you check out the second most popular Linux distribution according to Distro Watch, and that is Manjaro Linux. So from here, we're going to go to the first popular Linux distribution, and that is what is last on this list. Now, number 5 on our list is MX Linux. Now, this distribution is based on Debian, making it the only non-Ubuntu distribution on this list. Debian operating systems may be imitating to the new user, but the reason MX Linux is so popular is because it makes Debian more user-friendly for beginner users. Debian uses the XFCE environment, so it does look a little bit different. If I go ahead and click on the start menu here, you can see, I don't want to call it cleaner, but it is more visually impressive to me. It's lightweight versus some of the other ones. There's not as many transparencies or transitions or Windows effects or anything like that. But overall, it is a beautiful desktop environment. You can see if I open up the file manager here, it almost has a classic Windows look with how everything's laid out, some of the gray colorings. But overall, it is very, very snappy. If I go into my file system and kind of move through some of the media, you can see exactly how snappy everything is. And if you're not actually a fan of this gray look right here, you can go into some of the appearance settings. So if I go into appearance, here you have a list of styles. So I could go ahead and change it to like the Graybird Dark, and that changes just the color scheme of everything. If I go back into the file manager, you can see everything looks a little bit better here, and they have a huge list of different variations of the actual look you could go over. So it's just super nice. I'm going to go ahead and close this out, and you see this taskbar is up here. It is customizable. You can move it on the bottom, on the top, wherever you want, and everything is customizable when it comes to the appearance. So if I go ahead and go in here, right click, go to properties of the menu, I could have it displayed as a tree, a list, show icons. So if I click on show icons and open it up this way, it looks like that. If I do show as a list, it has it exactly how it was, or you could display it as a tree. There's tons of different settings. The one thing that's really good about this is it's compatible with just about everything. It's Debian based, as I said. There's a lot of different Debian packages that just work out of the box on this machine, and that is beautiful. If I go back into the start menu here, you can see under the MX tools that there are a ton of different utilities and things you could do with this operating system right out of the gate. It has everything that you will need. For example, if I go MX tweak, it will open up a bunch of different tweaks and settings that I could go out of the box. A lot of these different tweaking packages with other distributions you have to get after the fact, kind of like Pop! OS. And here's that setting I was talking about, display panel vertically. Let's go. We could go right, left. You can switch it to horizontally, and we'll go with the bottom. If I click apply, you can see it drops it down there. And go through the themes, composer, displays, config options. And that's just one of the little tweak tools. If I go back in here and go back to MX tools, you can see there's a mounter, there's a live USB kernel updater. You can format USBs. Basically anything you'd ever really need is right here. You have an NVIDIA driver installer. It comes preloaded with Firefox, Thunderbird, transmission. Just everything you'd need out of the box, this has it. With all this preloaded software, you're going to spend a lot less time looking for different tools to do different tweaks, setting changes, and things like that. And it's just going to cause a better overall experience and a lot less time wasted. This is currently the most popular Linux distribution according to Distro Watch, and that is for good reason. If you are a more advanced user and you don't mind kind of learning a new interface and doing some tweaking of various components and really spend some time deep diving into your operating system and changing everything to how you prefer and learning some of the functionalities of it, I would highly recommend you go with MX Linux if you're at all technically inclined in the slightest. Even if you are good at Google searching different problems or different solutions to things, go with MX Linux. You are going to have a great time. So thank you so much for watching. I do recommend you check out this playlist right here. It will have a bunch of different Linux videos that I've done recently. If you hit that like button, it really helps this channel out quite a bit, so go ahead and do that. And go down to the comments section and tell me what you think the best Linux distribution would be for somebody who is switching from Windows or Mac. I hope you have a great day, and goodbye.